So, I will introduce to you myself. I am Myra Santos from BED2B and I will be a reporter for today. In terms of school admission, curriculum mandated by DepEd, and also instructional materials, methods, and strategies, and lastly, for teachers. So before we start, we will give you the definition of special education and regular education. Definition of special education, also called special needs education, the education of children who differ socially, mentally, or physically from the average to such an extent that they required modification of usual schools practices. Regular education is the term often used to describe the educational experiences of typical developing children. Special education in terms of school admission has identification and assessment. Article 8, Section 1, every child shall be conducted as early as possible and uses team approach. In terms of school admission, special education should consider whether the information about pupils with SEN, school action and plus can be made available as soon as the admission lists are confirmed. They should give schools that confidence to discuss their reluctance to admit pupils with SEN and should support school to expand their capacity to meet the needs of particular pupils. They should monitor casual admissions with respect to the pupils with SEN and try to ensure that schools that take on the pupils mid-year are given the necessary financial resources or specialist support. Regular education, in terms of school admission, has entrance examination. Education designed to all children, which are meant to meet the standards, the common core state standards. The general education program is also the program which states annual tests in design to evaluate.
As stated in our mandate, the Department of Education shall protect and promote the rights of all citizens to quality education at all levels, and shall take appropriate steps to make such education accessible to all. The curriculum prescribed for regular children. The K-12 curriculum is standards and competence-based. It is inclusive and built around the needs of the learners and the community. The curriculum is done and is available on the DepEd website. It is the first time in history that the entire curriculum is digitized and made accessible to the public. The K-12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic education, 6 years of primary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school, to provide sufficient time for mastery of concepts and skills, develop lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for tertiary education, middle-level skills development, employment, and entrepreneurship. The kindergarten curriculum framework draws from the goals of the K-12 Philippine Basic Education Curriculum Framework and adopts the general principles of National Early Learning Framework. Kindergarten learners need to have a smooth transition to the content-based curriculum of grades 1 to 12. Students in grade 1 to 10 will experience an enhanced context-based and spiral progression learning curriculum with the following subjects. Senior high school is 2 years of specialized upper secondary education. Students may choose a specialization based on aptitude, interest, and school capacity. The choice of career track will define the content of the subjects a student will take in grade 11 and 12. Each student in senior high school can choose among 3 tracks. The curriculum for children with special needs aimed primarily at developing special adaptive skills to maximize their potentials. According to the World Health Organization and World Bank 2011, an estimate of over a billion people, or 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability. In the Philippines, 15 million out of 100 million Filipino children, youth, and adults have disabilities. 3.3 million of this population are in school, according to UNICEF 2016. These learners with disabilities experience barriers and various challenges that hinder their full access to and participation in the K-12 basic education. Hence, it is imperative for this department to intensify its strategies in identifying these Filipino learners with disabilities and provide them with appropriate and relevant educational interventions. The strategies cover not only identifying learners with disabilities who are already enrolled in basic education, but also finding and bringing persons with disabilities within the basic education system in view of their right to accessible and quality education with consideration of the role of national agencies and local government units to uphold the rights of children or persons with disabilities under RA 7277 as amended by RA 10070. The Bureau of Elementary Education, through the Special Education Division, this department regularly conducts training of teachers and administrators for children with special educational needs in order to provide them with access to formal education.
Special education versus regular education in terms of instructional materials, methods, and strategies. Regular education, dimensional following the curriculum, set objectives for learning. Special education, contractivism, learning by experience. Instructional materials, methods, and strategies applies to both regular and special education. Use instructional materials that are low-cost and indigenous materials shall be developed for the use of children. Teaching strategies shall be creative and multidimensional. They shall make maximum use of all remaining sense modalities and provide for active participation in the learning process.
Special education in terms of teachers, Article 8, Section 1, for the effective implementation of the special education program, the education, welfare, and training of personnel shall be given high priorities. All personnel involved in the education of children with special needs shall have an adequate and an appropriate approach, educational background, training, and personal qualities. In terms of teachers, special education teachers may teach students in small groups or one-on-one basis. Special education teachers works with students who have learning in mental, emotional, or physical disabilities. They adopt general education lessons and teach various subjects to the students with mild to moderate disabilities. Special education teachers are also caring and highly trained professionals who help students with developmental, physical, and behavioral emotional needs. These needs include mild or moderate learning disabilities that create academic challenges while still student allowing to function normal in other areas. So that the difference between special education and regular education, special education is a separate system of education. It's designed for the needs of differently abled children, where areas regular education is provided for physically or psychologically less challenged, typically developing students. In regular education classrooms, the majority of the time of the students receive whole group instructions. Their methods of instruction consist in lectures, discussions, case studies, writing, group projects, public reviews, and independent students projects. That's all for today. Thank you.